Have you ever started a project and it ends up being way bigger than you originally thought it would be? Welcome to our house build. But sometimes you have to get creative in order to take on those challenges of a bigger project, especially if you're trying to keep your costs down. Now, we have other videos talking specifically about our second story, why we did the rafters, how we did the roof, all of those things. Today, we're going to talk more specifically about our high gables. The first time we lifted the front one up and we kind of stood back in the driveway and we were just kind of shocked at how big everything looked. We knew the dimensions, we had the blueprints, but everything just looks larger when you actually get it going. To the deck of our second story, it's about 11 feet. And then our highest gable is about 16 feet. So our biggest gable on the back of our house, you're talking almost 30 feet that you have to work with and do the exteriors on. So we started off with building and sheathing these 4 gables. There's also another video about how we got them in place. Then we built out the rafters, the eaves, decked it and roofed it. And it sat for about a year like that. Now that is much longer than you're supposed to, I know, but we were trying to get the inside ready to move in, and with 2 primary workers and a family and another job, it just takes time. But this spring, we got to work on a plan to finish up the exteriors of these high gables. We discussed some different ways on how to reach these high walls, but we settled on the best idea being to build our own scaffolding and then to tear it down and rebuild it as we move to each side of the house.
What's that look like?
Oh, that is not level whatsoever.
Run downhill?
Yeah. Who's doing the math on this project here?
I literally just checked that. I don't understand.
Who's getting up there to connect the last beams?
Your husband?
We did fiber cement board all around our house for the siding, and we also have these shake siding that are actually fiber cement. And we have a whole video talking about how we did a whole process to make them look like real shakes. But today we're just going to talk about the install challenges that we had. First off, we started with doing our 4-inch and 6-inch trim around the different sides and kind of trimmed that in, and then we started on the shake. Really crucial step is that we wanted all of these to be straight. So we used our Johnson laser level. We have another video showing about how that can be used. We used that to make sure that those lines were all going to be level. So we would set a mark, line it all the way across, and then use that as our boundary line. After we had our straight line set, we put down a rain screen, like a lath, which allows for an air gap behind the siding. Now, as we're going side to side with every project, with every process, you get better as you keep going. So as we were doing this around the house, we get better, we get more efficient. A few things that helped us in this process was, number 1, creating a template for the edge pieces. That really helped us with our measuring. That way we knew the exact angle of the eave for those side pieces as we were going up and down and cutting the shake siding pieces. The second, of course, is just learning the process of how to work together. So normally we had at least one person that was outside taking measurements, telling those measurements to the person inside the window who was cutting, prepping the boards, passing them out, and then that person was putting them up on the wall. Once we got into a system of that, it went pretty quick and it was much more efficient. could have done this with maybe a lift. We could have done this with ladders. That would have involved a lot of movement. With a lift, you're talking about renting something and having a limited amount of time. We did this whole process of all 4 sides, along with other projects, really over the entire course of the summer. We did that second level on the bigger eaves, and that allowed us to essentially reach to the very top with a small ladder. It was safe for the most part, but we were very cautious. There were no kids on the scaffolding at all, but maybe a few cats and birds. So while we were up there, we were caulking everything in, we were painting everything, we're closing up those eaves, making sure everything's tight, cleaning the windows, everything that we could think of up high, because we don't want to get up there very often. We want to get everything done that we can. Great thing about the scaffolding was we got to access all corners and sides of the gable, allowed us to really do everything and have a lot of freedom to walk around and work and paint and make sure everything was done really well. And then in the very end, we tore it all down and we reused it to build a tree house for our kids. In the end, we love how these turned out. It was a lot of work. We are glad it's done. We are almost completely done with our exteriors, and we'll do more video on that. We're trying to get everything buttoned up for winter, but it feels really good to have these done, to have them looking nice, to know that everything's encased and closed up for the winter months. As always, we would love it if you would subscribe and follow along with our build.
This, do this, and do this.
All right, I'm gonna get back to work, okay? Love you.